Shahnameh Stories. The Seven Labours of Rostam. Haft Khane Rostam. The Shahnameh at the Mughal court of India. The Mughal rulers of India were avid bibliophiles, and their libraries were rich in illustrated manuscripts. But while there was an abundance of illustrated Shahnamehs in India, there is a distinction to be made between Persian copies, that is, the ones brought from Iran, those produced by Iranian artists working in India, and that which was created by native Indians. Consequently, the illustrations painted in India are quite different from the Iranian. The most famous of those from Iran was the Timurid Muhammad Juki Shahnameh. The dynasty's founder, Taimur, was of Turco-Mongol origin, but his descendants nonetheless adopted the Persian epic as their own. Muhammad Juki was a grandson of Taimur and a son of Shahrukh, and his Shahnameh is believed to have been made for him in the city of Herat in present-day Afghanistan. When Babur, a later descendant of the Timurids, founded the Mughal dynasty in northern India in 1526, the manuscript was taken there, where it remained until the 18th century before being gifted to the British. While from the 13th century Ilkhanid period of Iran onwards, the commissioning of the illustrated Shahnameh was the standard of imperial patronage and ideology, in India the work did not command the same political, cultural, and linguistic importance. At the Mughal court, illustrated manuscripts devoted to the life and illustrious lineage of the emperors were customary, and it was works such as the Zafarnameh, celebrating their ancestor Taimur, the Baburnameh, the riveting autobiography of the dynasty's founder Babur, the Akbarnameh and Padshahnameh, commemorating the reigns of Akbar and Shah Jahan respectively, that were the projects that consumed the royal workshops. Illustrated copies of the Shahnameh appeared in India from at least the 15th century, and especially, as noted by the Emperor Jahangir in his memoirs, were among highly prized gifts between the nobles and royalty. The exuberant and enlightened Emperor Akbar delighted in stories of all kinds. Although the recitation of the Shahnameh or Shahnameh Khani or Naqali is associated with Iran, where it was strongly connected to its national identity, amongst the Naqals who narrated epics such as the very popular Hamza-Nameh, there were professional Shahnameh Khans in India as well. Furthermore, due to the important Iranian and Central Asian presence, the Iranis and the Turanis as they were called, Persian culture was dominant at the Mughal court, and deluxe copies of the Persian epic were preserved in the libraries. The supremacy of the wealthy and influential Persian elite, who were the principal clientele of the epic, increased its interest. This was due to the political and cultural authority of Jahangir's Iranian wife Nur Jahan, who with her father Etemad-ud-Dowleh and brother Asif Khan Yamin-ud-Dowleh were the powerful trio that controlled the court and state affairs. This attachment to Persian culture continued during the reign of Shah Jahan, whose wife Mumtaz Mahal was also Iranian, and presumably at the court of the sixth and last great Mughal, Aurangzeb, who was half Persian and surrounded by his Persian cousins and family. So, in contrast to Iran, where Shahnamehs were commissioned by the king and the royal family, the majority of those from India are of non-imperial patronage. The manuscripts commissioned in India tend to be partial to the mythological and heroic sections that included the fantastic, such as demons and dragons, that had their counterparts in Indian culture. This meant that subjects that were pertinent to Iranians, such as the historical part, were less popular. Nonetheless, whether the illustrations are executed by Iranian or native artists, they are to varying degrees in the distinct style characterized by the school wherein they were commissioned, as for example in Kashmir, where Ulad, a noble of Mazandaran, is portrayed as a demon, and in the Deccan, where Rostam wears a turban. Indeed, a very different white Dev inhabits the Indian landscape of vibrant colors and energy, particular to artists who furthermore interpret the narrative details as they wish. In these, against the muted pastels of the spongy rocks, Rostam, sporting a gold cheetah head helmet, pounces onto the alarmed white Dev, whose loss of balance is captured in the huge horns that separate or fall back. On the left, the beautifully choreographed momentum is communicated by the color orange in the forward lurch of the bound, writhing Ulad, picked up by Rostam's orange pants and carried over the Dev's nose-diving horns. While some of the Indian illustrations are of superior quality, brimming with life and lyricism, at times a dissonance between image and text suggests the artist's possible inability to read the verse, and with only a general idea of the overall episode. Here, 4 exact verses are inserted into 2 very different styles. However, they are from the wrong part of the narrative and describe the early part of the battle, where Rostam and the white Dev are tearing each other's flesh, and not, as illustrated, the moment when Rostam plunges the dagger into the Dev's heart. Rostam wears a double helmet with the metal additionally crowned with the customary cheetah head, while on the right, the humanoid white Dev is equipped with one matching Ulad and Rostam's. Over time, the minimizing and later elimination of the accompanying text give the isolated figures a more dramatic presence. In this painting, the artist Mahesha has painted over and transformed Rostam's standard cheetah helmet, the traces of which can be seen above the head. Even without the text, viewers would have easily recognized this well-known episode with the white Dev painted the closest to Ferdowsi's description. This pose ultimately became the default representation of the story and has continued into modern and contemporary art. Other media include ink and wash, where in this unusual animated multidimensional drawing, the humanoid spotted white Dev and Rostam take center stage in the recess of an illusionary pit. Each clutching the other by the throat, the defiant Dev and the worried Rostam look out as if called by the spectator. Filled with superimposed layers of unrelenting action, the depth of the whirling pit is conjured up by the jagged folds that build up the height of the walls that encircle them, and the movement of the deer and hare that climb, jump, prance, sweep, and scramble up and down within the tiered furrows of the gyrating enclosure. Inside, the swing of the battle is picked up by the animated cloth, whose snake-like lunge is mirrored in the jingling shooting horns and live tail as it darts out from under the Dev's tunic. The billowy cloth weaves itself around Rostam's foot, showcasing the Dev's spurred chicken feet that pace perilously close to the peeved animal heads poking out of the ground. A curious tradition of painting is that of composite animals, wherein the main features are made up of smaller figures that fit in the large shape. These highly intricate and complex compositions originated in Persian culture and were later adopted by artists in the Mughal dynasty. This white Dev's enormous body is made up of human and animal heads that are crammed and piled together with various benign and detached expressions. The chopped off leg that is usually seen marching off or laying near the body is merely indicated by the crouching figure that sits with its eyes closed in silent meditation. In these series on the Haftarn, we have seen Rostam battle a spectacular array of ferocious, humorous, and gruesome white deeds. Some, such as that of the Shahnameh of Shah Tahmasp, remain the supreme representation of the Div in all of his glory, set in an enchanted landscape. However, in India too, there are some that mirror and match its magnificence. As such, can Divs get any more gorgeous than these? In a significant departure of Mughal painting from its Persian origins, these three superb Shahnamehs are set within a delightfully lyrical landscape of colourful rocks stacked and shaded with chiaroscuro. The three-dimensional volume of the landscape is achieved by the value gradation of colour and the analytical division of light and shadow. The dark, terrifying cave has been transformed into a lush landscape bursting with tiny flowers that twinkle under the gilded sky, whose glimmer is in turn picked up by the jewels, weapons, and trimmings of Rostam, Ulad, and Rakhsh. Orange, highlighted by gold, dominates, folding, swinging, and darting to sweep the eye over the exquisite symphony of hues. In these, a delightfully ornate dandy, erstwhile fierce, blue-mouthed white Div confronts Rostam with a distinctly different attitude towards death. Of the three, only the center illustrates the text on its folio, while the right and left illustrations are ahead of the classic breakline of Rostam thrusting the dagger into the white Div's heart and tearing it out. The verse narrates the moment when we hear the Div say that he has given up on sweet life, as the center Div's eyebrows knot together in surprise and shock at the realization that he is going to perish. His horns holler and lock together as the red flames at the corners of his eyes spread over the cheeks, exposing his anxiety and terror. While the paintings on either side follow the same, albeit reversed layout, they reflect a complete change in mood. On the right, the Div's fear has turned to indignation as he scowls and growls beneath the gold bangle holding together his horns and the clinking coins of his corona. While on the left, far from being scared or angry, the Div ignores Rostam and the stabbing and turns his attention to the viewer. In this exquisite scene, the broad-shouldered, beautifully attired Div leans back nonchalantly as a confused Rostam plunges the dagger into his otherwise intact body. The bejeweled legs, strong and whole, stretch comfortably as one ankle folds leisurely over the other. Unbothered about the gaping wound and the gushing blood, the Div lounges on his right arm as his left grabs hold of Rostam's leg. Stroking his beard in contemplation, the demonic blaze of his eyes infuse the iridescent landscape as the terrified flowers and strewn decapitated heads glimmer and glower under the golden glow of his ruby-encrusted jewelry. The killing of the white Div is the last of Rostam's 7 labours or khans, but his battle with demons is not over, as he next confronts the clever and mercurial shapeshifter, the Div Akvan.